Now, once Great Britain got wind of that, well, of course, they started turning towards other means to acquire hemp.
Right, so what did they do? They set up a sea blockade?
Yeah, a naval blockade around the United States, or at least the eastern seaboards at that time. And the captains of those ships were given two options. Either sell your product to us at pennies on the dollar for what it was worth, or we will take your ship and take everything and then ship you back home at cost to your employer if your employer doesn't want to pay you.
Let me back up just a little bit. When the blockade took place with Britain's Navy, folks, all right, they accomplished this by the blockade of France by closing the English Channel and the Atlantic, the Bay of Biscay ports with their Navy, okay? So what happens then, our fledgling nation with all its mercantilism, with all its clipper ships, they're getting intercepted, as Buzzy says, and geez, it's just amazing to me that, these mercantilists are in the business of business, so they were offered security on the sea by the Brits and gold, a certain amount when they agreed to do it, and a certain amount when they delivered the hemp products that Britain needed to maintain their fleets. And, so this is how we've gotten involved with the War of 1812, but you never, ever read that.
No, you won't. And there's a lot of things you won't hear about. And since we're just about out of time, because we do want to show you Hemp for Victory, I mean, you won't hear about, from the mainstream media, the hemp initiative that Congressman Ron Paul introduced into Congress in 2007 and 2005 to take commercial hemp off of Schedule I drug lists so that it could be produced in this country legally to try and put us back to work.
And why do we need a hemp initiative? Well, since 1937, the Marijuana Tax Act, I'll tell you folks. All right, Ron Paul is the only one to introduce these hemp initiatives because he knows what's up. All right, because the DEA, what have they been doing? All right, they have an eradication program where they go out and, fly over you with tax-paid helicopters, and, you feel like, watch out if you're growing marijuana. But anyway, what are they actually out there doing? They're collecting all of the feral plants. Their eradication program consists of 98.1% of feral plants. That means there's no psychoactive properties. You know what, folks? When we were little, they told us money doesn't grow on trees. They want to make sure that we don't know that money does grow on trees because pot is green gold. All right,
we're going to prove it with Hemp for Victory.
And here it is, folks. Hemp for Victory is a 1942 Agricultural Department movie program.
Yep.
And it's to show people how to grow it. And they said they never made it years later.
Yeah, well, here's proof that, once again, our government is lying to us, so.
Stop bitch and start a revolution and check out Hemp for Victory.
Long ago, when these ancient Grecian temples were new, hemp was already old in the service of mankind. For thousands of years even then, this plant had been grown for cordage and coarse cloth in China and elsewhere in the East. For centuries prior to about 1850, all the ships that sailed the western seas were rigged with hempen rope and sails. For the sailor, no less than the hangman, hemp was indispensable. A 44-gun frigate, like our cherished old Ironsides, took over 60 tons of hemp for rigging. Including an anchor cable 25 inches in circumference. The Conestoga wagons and prairie schooners of pioneer days were covered with hempen canvas. Indeed, the very word canvas comes from the Arabic word for hemp. In those days, hemp was an important crop in Kentucky and Missouri. Then came cheaper imported fibers for cordage, like jute, sisal, and manila hemp, and the culture of hemp in America declined. But now, with Philippine and East Indian sources of hemp in the hands of the Japanese, and shipment of jute from India curtailed, American hemp must meet the needs of our Army and Navy as well as of our industries. In 1942, patriotic farmers at the government's request planted 36,000 acres of seed hemp, an increase of several thousand %. The goal for 1943 is 50,000 acres of seed hemp. In Kentucky, much of the seed hemp acreage is on river bottom land such as this, along the Kentucky River Gorge. Some of these fields are inaccessible except by boat. Thus, plans are afoot for a great expansion of the hemp industry as a part of the war program. This film is designed to tell farmers how to handle this ancient crop, now little known outside Kentucky and Wisconsin. This is hemp seed. Be careful how you use it. For to grow hemp legally, you must have a federal registration and tax stamp. This is provided for in your contract. Ask your AAA committeeman or your county agent about it. Don't forget, hemp demands a rich, well-drained soil such as is found here in the bluegrass region of Kentucky or in central Wisconsin. It must be loose and rich in organic matter. Poor soils won't do. Soil that will grow good corn will usually grow hemp. Hemp is not hard on the soil. In Kentucky, it has been grown for several years on the same ground, though this practice is not recommended. A dense and shady crop, hemp tends to choke out weeds. Here's a Canada thistle that couldn't stand the competition. Dead as a dodo. Thus, hemp leaves the ground in good condition for the following crop. For fiber, hemp should be sown 5 pecks to the acre. With drill, the closer the rows, the better. These rows are spaced about 4 inches. This hemp has been broadcast. Either way, it should be sown thick enough to grow a slender stalk. Here's an ideal stand. The right height to be harvested easily, thick enough to grow slender stalks that are easy to cut and process. Stalks like these here on the left, they yield the most fiber and the best. Those on the right are too coarse and woody. For seed, hemp is planted in hills like corn, sometimes by hand. Hemp is a dioecious plant. The female flower is inconspicuous, but the male flower is easily spotted. In seed production, after the pollen has been shed, these male plants are cut out. These are the seeds on a female plant. Hemp for fiber is ready to harvest when the pollen is shedding and the leaves are falling. In Kentucky, hemp harvest comes in August. Here, the old standby has been the self-rake reaper, which has been used for a generation or more. Hemp grows so luxuriantly in Kentucky that harvesting is sometimes difficult, which may account for the popularity of the self-rake with its lateral stroke. A modified rice binder has been used to some extent. This machine works well in average hemp. Recently, the improved hemp harvester, used for many years in Wisconsin, has been introduced in Kentucky. This machine spreads the hemp in a continuous swath. It is a far cry from this fast and efficient modern harvester to the Armstrong model of yore. But here's one kind of harvester, at least, that doesn't stall in the heaviest hemp. In Kentucky, hand cutting is practiced in opening fields for the machines. In Kentucky, hemp is shucked as soon as safe after cutting, to be spread out for retting later in the fall. In Wisconsin, hemp is harvested in September. Here, the hemp harvester with automatic spreader is standard equipment. Note how smoothly the rotating apron lays the swath preparatory to retting. Here it is a common and essential practice to leave headlands around hemp fields. These strips may be planted to other crops, preferably small grain. Thus, the harvester has room to make its first round without preparatory hand cutting. Here the machine is running over corn stubble. When the cutter bar is much shorter than the hemp is tall, overlapping occurs. Not so good for retting. The standard cut is 8 to 9 feet,